Welcome to the Awake with Jake show. I'm your host, Jake Woodard, and it is my mission to help you break through mental barriers, gain clarity, and awaken your heart so you can live more free and fulfilled. My intention for this show is to create a safe container to help you heal, awaken, and transform your life. What's going on, my soul family? Welcome back to another episode of the Awake with Jake show. On today's episode, I will be dropping in and sharing with you how to escape the matrix. Now, before we get into that, I have a small favor to ask of you. Would you just take a moment and leave a rating and review on my podcast? Because when you do this, you help me to reach more souls with my messages of hope, wisdom, and love. Now, assisting me with today's channeling is the Divine Mother, because I'm literally standing in the middle of a wide open field, grounded to Mother Earth, listening to the birds chirp, feeling the breeze blow through this field, feeling the warmth of the sun bathing down on me. So whatever you're doing in this moment, allow this message to resonate with you, with your being, because I'm going to deliver you codes that can help to upgrade your entire system. These energetic codes are things that I have carried deep within me for a long time, and I am now bringing forth these messages because my soul has awakened, and I feel that your soul is awakening as well. Vibrationally, you were drawn into this podcast, and you're not hearing this by accident. You're not hearing this by coincidence. You are hearing this because you were meant to hear what I'm about to share with you. When it comes to escaping the matrix, I'm going to share with you my experience of what I had to break free of. Like you, I was brought into a pretty corrupt world. I grew up with a lot of fear, threats, insecurity, feeling unsafe, a lot of violence, abuse, anger from my father, my sister's drug addiction, and my own stuff, my own shame and guilt, my eating disorders, and being obese as a young boy and being bullied and picked on. Pretty much everything I experienced as a young boy and as a child and throughout my teenage years was programming me to stay asleep for the rest of my life. But the more that my soul started to awaken, the louder my soul's voice became, the more my ego quieted down inside. That voice that was telling me, you're no good, you're not worthy of success or fulfillment or love or joy or happiness. Do you know that voice? Do you hear that voice often? When you see yourself in the mirror, you start picking yourself apart and body shaming yourself. Or maybe you feel like you never make enough money, or you'll never call in the love of your life because you have all these fears and doubts that have been imprinted upon you by society, by your teachers, by your parents, even by your closest friends. Everything around you and around us is designed, for the most part, to keep you asleep. The news, the media, a lot of music, TV programming, television programming. Even think about the words behind this. This is why when we awaken, we can start to filter what we allow into our vibratory field, into our energetic field. So as we begin to awaken, we start to transcend the fears into love. The fears into love. That is alchemy. You are becoming an alchemist as your soul begins to awaken, as you escape this matrix, this broken reality, this illusion. You have been brought into a reality where you're trapped. And the first thing getting out of a trap is realizing I'm trapped. You have to identify that you are first trapped. And that's what I started doing. I started questioning everything. I started questioning all of the lies that I had been told, all of the programming and conditioning. It never made sense to me. I always had a pretty curious spirit. And as my spirit began to awaken, as I began to channel more of this divine energy, I started to see the truth. It was almost like waking up in a bad dream. When my soul started to awaken, I felt the energy of the divine flowing through me. And that's exactly what I was connecting to. So as you begin to awaken, as you begin to feel into your deepest, truest self, you will start to question everything that you hear, everything that you've been told. And then you'll notice a lot of that was lies. I had the programming of, well, you got to go to school, you got to go to college, you got to get a really good job, you got to be married by this age, you got to have this many kids, and then you're going to retire at this age. Basically, my whole life was planned out for me by the time I was 5 years old. It wasn't my truth. And if you want to awaken, you have to discover your truth. Most people don't know their truth because they don't know who they are. And until you know who you are at a soul level and you let go of this social identity, you will stay in this programmed belief system of suffering, of fear, of mind control. You see, this dark energy, this shadow energy will keep you controlled, will keep you repressed if you allow it to, because it's very easy to manipulate somebody with fear in their energetic system. So the more you release these fears, the more you tap into your soul's voice, because the soul is not afraid, the ego is afraid. The ego is always grabbing at survival, grabbing at lust, grabbing at money, grabbing at safety, grabbing at validation, grabbing at security. So notice in your life right now, how much safety, how much security, how much greed, how much lust am I always chasing? It's never enough. Your ego will never be fulfilled. Your ego, your mind, is your karma, is the reason for your suffering. Think about how much your mind perpetuates your suffering. The fear, the pain, the agony, the angst, the despair, all of it. Your mind creates these stories because these stories have been programmed and been imprinted into you. And when they are activated, your mind just goes, oh, there's an easy one right there. Let me just cling to this for a second. Now, I want you to feel this. As this breeze blows across this field, let it cleanse you as it cleanses me. Feel this flow, feel this energy just resonating through every cell of your being. Your mind is creating your suffering because you are listening to the stories of who you think you are and how you think the world should be. You see, because we all have models of how we think the world should be. So when something triggers us externally, we get upset, we get triggered. But because our internal model, our internal belief system doesn't align with that. When we focus on the external world, we start blaming everything around us. We start blaming our stories for the life outside of us. But when we get quiet inside, when we start to look within, everything begins to shift. Because we start to dissolve the grips of the ego. And the more we dissolve the unconscious parts of ourselves, and the more we heal the wounds that have been deeply instilled within us, the more we can escape this matrix. Escaping the matrix is really about waking the hell up, becoming aware of yourself. But the question is, who is the self? Who are you beyond your body? Who are you beyond your personality? Who are you beyond your social identity? Who are you beyond who you've been told to be by your teachers, by your parents, by your friends? My identity for a long time was the party boy. So I was the boy always creating all kinds of chaos in the bar room or at parties, and that was how I was identified. So for a long time, as I started getting into spirituality and healing work, people thought it was a joke. Like, that's not for real. You remember who you are? Because they hadn't changed. They had this belief system of who they thought I still was. But the thing is, when you start to grow, when you start to awaken, you're going to shake things up. You're going to rock the boat, okay? And when you start to rock that boat, you're going to piss other people's off because you are waking up their ego, and their ego wants to put you right back to sleep with them. Don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat. I'm telling you right now, why don't you start rocking that boat? Why don't you start waking up? Because when you do that, you inspire other people around you to change as well. And if they don't, that's fine. They'll fall off. I'm not telling you to go around and preach to everybody, but I'm saying be the change you want to see in the world, just like Gandhi said. Be the change you want to see in the world, because the only thing you can offer to another person is your own energy, is to work on yourself. The more you work on yourself, the more you awaken your soul, the more that everything begins to shift for you. And when this happens, I can assure you that there's going to be a lot of pain. You're going to feel a lot of emotions. You're going to feel a lot of releasing, maybe a lot of crying. That was me for the first few years of my awakening. As I went through each dark night of the soul, I cried a lot. I went through a lot of grief and anger as I relived all of the pain and trauma as it released from my energetic system. That's what you're doing. You're purifying and cleansing yourself, all of the trauma that has been lodged and stored within your body. You're purifying this. You're cleansing it. And tears are very cleansing. So I've spent a lot of time in Mother Nature just crying it out and releasing with intention. I wasn't crying to victimize myself. I was crying with intention. And there's a big difference when you cry with intention versus crying to victimize yourself. Everything is so much different. Allow yourself to cleanse like water, flow like water. The more you quiet down your ego mind and all of the chatter of who you're not or who you're supposed to be or how unworthy you are or your abandonment, all these different things, all these mind stuff, you hear, you feel, you start to breathe again. Your heart opens back up and everything begins to change. And you know what's interesting is as you start to awaken and you go through the many ups and downs of the awakening journey, things begin to level out and life begins to become a lot more enjoyable. As I was driving the other day, I noticed that these certain trees were starting to bloom. And I thought to myself, I would never notice this if I was still asleep. I wouldn't notice these flowers blossoming. I wouldn't notice the smell of the spring upon us. You don't notice certain things when you're asleep, because you're just in a very single-focused reality. And you almost have blinders on to the external world. You don't feel compassionate for other beings because you don't give a shit about other beings because your ego is only concerned with your own survival. But the thing is, when you start to awaken, another thing that comes along with this, and we can throw this in the toolbox as well, is you're going to want to help other people. You are going to want to serve people at a very deep level. Now, I'm not telling you that you need to be a healer to help people in this life. That's just the path I've chosen. You can do God's work in many different forms as long as you are spreading the vibration of love in a capacity that supports it. So whatever you do, anchor in to this sacred calling. What is your sacred calling? Why are you here? Who are you? And if you're new to these questions, I invite you to write them down right now. What is my sacred calling? Why am I here? Who am I? Now, these are questions that I asked myself for many years until I knew the answer, because I didn't know the answer for a long time, because I was who everybody else told me to be. I was who this matrix told me to be. My identity was a fat kid with a stutter. I barely graduated school. I was in all the assisted learning classes. I was beaten by my father. I watched my sister be a drug addict for the last 15 years of my life. I was the party boy getting dragged out of bar rooms, blackout drunk at 4 a.m. That was my identity. That was my identity. That was who I thought I was. But as I started to awaken and went beyond my physical body, I realized that I had this soul energy. And the soul energy was connected to everything in this universe. The plants, the animals, the trees, all the other beings, the sun, the earth, the moon. Everything in this universe is interconnected. It is one giant web of consciousness. So the more that you awaken, the more that you actually help the universe and the world and the beings and everything in it. Because we need all of the light workers and healers and compassionate beings and loving people that we can get in this world right now. And during this quarantine, which is when I'm recording this podcast, a lot of people are starting to awaken even more because they're being invited to look within. It's almost like a stern mother has came along and said, well, it's time to do some inward work. So go to your bedroom, sit down for the next couple months and think about what you've done. And in this process, You may have been laid off from your job. You may have been able to work from home. And you're getting this sense of freedom. Oh, this is what it feels like. Oh, maybe I don't want to go back to my job in the third dimension that no longer serves me because I'm only going there for money. Now, when I had this realization, holy shit, did everything in my life change. I literally had the quote unquote dream job, the dream job in the 3D, which was safety, security, pension, 401k, health benefits, the whole nine. Great company to work for. Retire at 60 years old. You got your whole life mapped out for you, baby. But at 23 years old, I started questioning all of that. I read this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and boy, did I start to change my thinking on having a job. Now, I'm not saying that having a job is a bad thing, okay? Because you can have a job and love your life, and I've met people in my life that really love their job, and that's totally okay. But if you don't love your job, then this is for you. If you don't feel like your job is your sacred calling, then I am inviting you to look deeper within yourself and really ask yourself, why am I here? What is my work, right? Well, your first work is to work on yourself to awaken, because you can't do anything for this planet until you're free. And you can help others get free as you get free yourself, but you're really the most beneficial to this planet when you're flying, baby. When you fly, baby. Because when you let go of what weighs you down and what keeps you grounded to the earth and doesn't allow your wings to fully blossom, everything changes, because you can help others find their wings. You can help others fly. Now, if 10 years ago you told me this was the work I was going to be doing, I used to pick on these type of people. I thought they were crazy. I thought they were whack jobs. When I first heard the words law of attraction, I was like, what is that bullshit? Like, these were my thoughts. I fought against everything because my ego was thinking against everything. Now, the more curious you become, the more beneficial you are. The more questions you ask, the more you start to challenge the traditional programming of do this, do that, do this, and you'll be happy. But how many people do you know, just curious right now, how many people do you really know that are fully fulfilled, truly happy, have a great relationship, make money doing something that they truly love? How many people do you know? Maybe a couple, maybe none. I personally only know a handful of people that truly love what they do and are awakened and really love this life. And that's the thing about this human experience, is we can really love this life. You see, most people just float through life. They're just okay being comfortable. They come in this life and they eat some food, some good food. They take a lot of naps. Although I like taking a nap once in a while. But that's the thing, is they're just here to be cozy. They're just here to be comfortable. But within that comfort, we never grow. Our soul never awakens. Because we have to blast through the veils of the false personality, of the ego. And the more that we do that, the more our soul awakens. So you really start to have to ask yourself these deep questions. These questions that are a little scary. Because in this life, there is birth and there is death. And you're given a timeline. And your timeline, no one knows. Maybe God does, but no one knows your timeline, okay? No one knows how long you're going to be here. So I invite you to do the best work that you possibly can each and every single moment that you can, and not make excuses for yourself. Take care of yourself. Work on yourself. Allow yourself to feel beautiful inside. Because when you do that, you inspire other people to change as well. You inspire other people to change as well. The more that you awaken, the more that you heal, the more that you feel better. Because those around you see your light. And when you start to see your light, everything begins to change. When your heart starts to open, when your heart starts to blossom, you radiate out this beautiful, loving energy into the universe. And that is healing energy. That is medicine for the people. That is medicine for the planet. That is medicine for all the other beings. So when it comes to escaping the matrix, you have to start challenging what you've been told, what you've been programmed to believe. Start getting really curious about life. Start going deeper into yourself. and start listening inward. Because the more you listen, the more you trust your intuition. You're given an intuition for a reason. Why don't you honor that intuition? You know what feels right. You know that if the job that you're working at right now is keeping you in this rat race, in this state of unconsciousness, maybe it's time to set a plan to leave and transition out of this job. Or maybe it's your relationship. You know that this person, and this could be a friend, this could be a family member, this could be a romantic partner. You know that this person is casting this shadow over your life that is keeping you in the darkness. And here's the thing, it could be one person that you only see once in a while that has this hook in you that keeps you stuck in suffering. Cut that person out of your life with love. And if they're not willing to awaken with you, what's the purpose of that relationship? A relationship means that both people come together to help each other to awaken. If you are not helping each other to awaken, to get free of this matrix, what is the purpose of any human relationship? And I'm talking about all relationships right now. Coworkers, family members, friends, romantic partners, especially romantic partners, because you're with that person all the time. And if that person doesn't invite you to grow and ascend, why are you together? Same thing with a job. If that job is not supporting your ascension, why are you going to that job every single day and perpetuating your suffering? Sure, in 3D, the job, the good job, quote unquote, air quotes, is really important because you got to have safety, security, pension. But that's the thing is that system, that systematic programming is playing on your root chakra wounds, your blocked root chakra, because it's knowing that you need safety, security, survival. And here's the thing, a lot of relationships and people in relationships will do that as well. They'll say they will create a codependency within their partner where they really need them. They pay for everything. They build the house. They do all these things. This is what my dad did to my mother. And he basically created this entire vortex so my mom couldn't get out of it. And, he basically created everything so she couldn't leave. And he created this codependency. And by the way, I talk a lot about my dad, but I just want to say how proud of my dad I really am, because he has really transformed and changed a lot. And, he still triggers me at times, but I really love my dad, and I'm grateful that I've healed that relationship with him. And, I know some people that listen to this podcast, and you may have lost your father, but you can still do that work internally, and you can still heal that energetically. And you can do that with anybody. It doesn't have to be your father. It could be a friend, a lover, whoever. You can do that work too. So, a little recap here for everybody that has stayed this long. I appreciate you, and I love you so freaking much. So freaking much. And I just want to thank the Divine Mother for helping me with this channel and supporting this space and holding this space as I channeled this energy. I feel like I'm standing in front of an audience right now, and my audience is the trees and the grass and the birds. And you, of course, the beautiful listener on the other end of this. And I can see you. I can feel you. I can feel your love. But as a little recap, question and challenge everything. Ask yourself those 3 questions. What is my sacred calling? Who am I? Why am I here? That's your homework. I really want you to dig into that. And please, if this episode resonated with you, take a screenshot of this, share it to your Instagram story, tag me in it. Right now, my course for healing your masculine and feminine energies is currently closed. It will be opening June 1st. If you want to get a notification when it is open, go to jakewarder.com/course and get on the waiting list to be notified when it goes live. This course is super powerful. It's all about healing, harmonizing, and embodying both your inner masculine and feminine energies. This course is a game changer. This course is a life changer. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. I appreciate you and I love you. And as always, stay open, stay loving, and stay connected to that beautiful source within you.